America's streets. Understand no tolerance for extremist white supremacist group policing our community.
I try not to speak hyperbolically often, but this is the wildest thing that I have ever seen in my adult lifetime. So here's the actual story of what happened with Hunter Biden today. So he shows up to court yesterday. Somebody posing as a House Ways and Committee member from Hunter's team called the court and was like, hey, you got to keep these documents out because it's got personal information, blah, 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 blah. The prosecutors get word that they're pulling the document. And they're like, wait, we didn't file that. So they had to refile the document that was damning to Hunter and his defense. They filed it last night at 9 p.m. Hunter shows up to court today. He's supposed to get the plea deal, like plead out, whatever. The judge goes, no, no, no. There's this document. Are you under federal investigation? Hunter's team has to admit that, yes, he is still under federal investigation. They won't grant him immunity. The judge is like, I'm not going to grant you immunity for all of these things that you're still under federal investigation for. This could possibly screw up further investigations into your wrongdoings. So Hunter's defense team denies the plea deal. The plea deal is 100% dead. Hunter now has to plead not guilty and take it to trial. This is insane. Again, Hunter Biden's team pretended to be the House Oversight Ways and Means Committee and under false pretenses tried to get a document removed and they got caught. I've been telling you for months that Hunter was going to be the one that brings down this current administration, and he shows up in federal court today to explain his multiple felonies, and then we have to figure out why it is that he got such a sweetheart deal, which we all know he did. Back in 2019, he said, and I quote, to his daughter, I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry, unlike Pop, who is Joe Biden, I won't make you give me half of your salary. Hunter is guilty of a federal gun charge and federal tax fraud, along with many other things that we verified on the laptop. Today is the beginning of the slow fall of the Biden administration, and I'm here for it. I don't have any political affiliations. If you do wrong, you're not above the law. I keep hearing that. It starts now.
Beg your pardon?
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were. Beg your pardon?
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
Joe Biden has trouble with the teleprompter, okay? Sometimes I think we should turn around and we read it to Joe Biden, okay? He would be more surprised than anybody. We're giving money to Ukraine. We are? Yes, just sit down. If you let us finish, you get an ice cream. I like ice cream. Don't leave, we're reading you the teleprompter. Sit down, sit.
So remember when we learned that Hunter Biden, the nation's first son, was an aspiring painter and was going to sell his paintings? Well, he's racked in just under $1.5 million for those paintings. We wonder who's buying them.
One person is a woman named Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali. She is a big-time Biden donor, $200,000. She has been to the White House 13 times since Biden has been president of the United States, and she just got a nice job in the Biden administration. Sure, it has nothing to do with the Hunter Biden painting purchase.
Remember, I believe in coincidences. I've just never seen one.
To serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges, you were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody...
Well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like when you're vice president, isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was, there was something on its face that was wrong. There's nothing on its face that was wrong. So look, if you want to talk about problems, you know, let's talk about Trump's family. I mean, come on. This is...
So
these guys are amazing.
So you think that everything that happened was kosher?
You know there's not one single bit of evidence Not one little tiny bit to suggest anything done was wrong. You know that, but you keep asking me these questions. It's okay. You're doing what you have to do, but I'm not worried about it. Look, the American public knows me.
Last one on this. Say you're elected, you're in office. What guardrails would you have to be sure that your son, your brother Jimmy, doesn't do anything to trade?
In other news, water is wet. We all knew he was lying. We've been talking about it for months. Hunter and Joe were in business together. They took in about $50 million. I don't even want to do this real, but okay, fine. Why don't you post when President Trump does something? People have been hitting me up about the new indictments. Look at this timeline. Look at the timeline right here. Look at this timeline. That doesn't seem manufactured to you? Oh, by the way, the last time that Jack Smith brought federal charges like this, he was appealed 8-0 at the Supreme Court. The Florida documents thing, Trump probably ran afoul of the law there. He probably actually did do something wrong. Should he be prosecuted? No. Did he run afoul of the law? Probably by letter of the law? Yes. They didn't prosecute Hillary Clinton for that. They are going to prosecute President Trump for that. So two things can be true at the same time. Number one, he could be afoul of the law. And then number two, he shouldn't be prosecuted because of the precedents that we have set. Look at this timeline. Look at this timeline. Jack Smith is going to bring up more federal charges and probably get appealed at the Supreme Court 8-0. The Supreme Court is largely conservative right now.
The former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States.
Well, we just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president.
Why do you want to run again in 2024? You're ineffective. You are a failure. You have failed the electorate. You have all these people showing up to vote, canvassing on your behalf, ensuring the two Democrats won the Senate runoff races in Georgia because you said it was so important to have that majority in the Senate. And then you turned around and did nothing for the American people. How can any Democratic voter look at this sad, pathetic excuse for a leader and think, nailed it?
Well, I think we should discuss that while you're there,
okay, but why did you call me at 9 o'clock in the morning to tell me that? On the morning that the Marine Dowd article comes out?
I didn't know about Marine Dowd.
Well, you did before you started talking to me,
You
Allie.
wouldn't attack me, that you would be a bit more humble.
I did
but
not
I
attack
was wrong,
you.
and it pissed me off.
I didn't attack you.
Okay, you said I'm going to use against you.
No, okay. I said to
and
you,
then
Allie,
you said I haven't been
I don't
supportive.
want to give you information
you
about this program because I'm afraid that you'll use it against me as not being enough.
I can't keep talking. We're going to go round and round in circles.
I'm not arguing, Allie. I'm asking you.
Okay, I don't know. I think we should schedule a visit and we'll talk with the therapist. I'm not going to continue to argue, and I don't want to talk and make things worse. Hello?
A lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that.
Democrats are correct. There is no evidence Joe Biden is involved with his son's business dealings. Outside of bank records, suspicious activity reports, the wire transfers, private bank transactions, the LLCs, the texts, the emails, the WhatsApp messages, the photos of Joe with Hunter's business partners, the voicemails to his son, the two business partners saying Joe's the brand, the big guy, and the chairman, the two whistleblowers' testimony, the recorded phone calls between Biden and Poroshenko, the video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the Ukrainian prosecutor, and Hunter's statements that he's giving his dad half his income. Other than that, there is no evidence whatsoever of Joe Biden being involved with his son's business dealings.
one thing President Biden has done that you think's been a good thing?
Well, I'm struggling.
We're in Missouri. I'm having a great fucking time. I'm probably 15 beers deep, and I can still speak better than Biden. We're in Missouri. I'm having a great...
Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it.
Hear me talk about all the time that this is not human smuggling, this is debt bondage. And you see these wristbands? Well, once they cross, they break them. When you see this and the wristband isn't broke, it's because it's been on a child. You see, they don't have to break it like all the others. That child's wrist is so small, they can just slip it right off. You look at these young ones here, and you can see what I'm talking about in regards to the young ages that are here. This is the story that's not told. Most people come down here and they look at this and they think this is just illegal immigration. There's so much more to this. And these wristbands that are placed on men, women, and children, that's the game changer. What you're witnessing here at the southwest border in Roma, Texas, this is America's new slave trade. This is not human smuggling. Get ready, America. It's coming toward you. And so all these families have to pay this debt back. And you see it on them, just crossing from Miguel Alemán into Roma, Texas.
And hunters in the basement with a silver spoon. The hookers and drugs, we're gonna be there soon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when.
I'll be good and high by then, Dad. Yeah, I'll be good and high by then.
Picking through drugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine.
I'm very proud of my son.
My son came around just the other day. He said, I got me a deal where we can both get paid. Can I trade on your name? I said, sure, okay. Will anyone know? He said, no, no way. And as he walked away, he looked kind of dim and said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah. You know I'm gonna be like him.
He's fixed it. He's worked on it.
And hunters in the basement with a silver spoon. Ukrainian brides, we're gonna be there soon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when.
I'll put aside your 10%, Dad.
Biden was just asked about the deadly fires in Maui, where over 1,000 people are still missing, and his response was, no comment. Why is he still president?
Sir, Biden is a criminal. I drove oil tankers with Standard Oil. So as soon as Biden came into office and he cut the Keystone XL pipeline off, I know he was out to destroy America. He was going to raise inflation through the roof, so that would wipe out the middle class. And then he blames Russia, he blames this and all this. But look at what the man is doing. He is killing this country by expanding the gap between rich and poor. But when he cut off the XL pipeline, he destroyed the middle class.
He's not lying. Listen to this.
Now listen to me carefully on this. The truth is, I do not hate anyone. I look for grace wherever I can find it. So I say this gently. The Biden administration sucks. You measure it any way you want. COVID, the economy, inflation, the national debt, the border, crime, cancel culture, treating parents like domestic terrorists. Right. Afghanistan, our energy independence, now lost. My God. President Biden has been spectacularly awful. If you put President Biden in charge of the Sahara Desert, he would run out of sand. If the aliens landed in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, and said, take me to your leader, it would be embarrassing.
Get vaccinated. Now. Now. Now! Before it's too late. You're gonna die in there! All of you! You are gonna die!
What do we do? You know something's gonna give. New Yorkers, how much more can we give?
Well, here's an idea. We can't take any more. That means give them, the buses come, or just announce, the mayor should announce, we can't take any more migrants.
But we're a sanctuary city.
Well, we shouldn't be, first of all. But
okay, so seriously though, Councilman, I mean, what can we really do at this point to stop this happening in New York?
Well, again, I believe President Biden is asleep at the wheel on this one. And he has been. For 6 months ago, we were at capacity. 6 months ago, you can't take any more. If we're saying we have no room, but we keep taking them, house people coming to our country, again, they're not even vetted, and we're going to put them in neighborhoods or in tents or in the parks or in schools. That's ridiculous.
Because
because
of the law of the right to shelter. Until that changes, nothing changes.
Well, that was meant for homeless New Yorkers, and that's the key. Homeless New Yorkers, not people from everywhere in the world that wants to come. And like I said, the open border is killing us, killing our quality of life. It's a matter of time before people start moving out even more than they're moving now, because the quality of life, everything will start to deteriorate.
All right, guys, here we are, Brownsville, Texas. This is what it looks like. They did a pretty good job, I'm not gonna lie, in some of these other spots, picking up the trash, but it took us about 30 minutes, but we sure did find where they're coming across here. As you can see, what they do is they just pile the garbage, the trash on top of the razor wire, concertina wire, and then they just step right over it. Always same stuff, lots of pills, clothing, shoes, backpacks, IDs. Absolutely disgusting. Always pills.
We know he's not a solid candidate.
Exactly.
He is struggling. I mean,
within his own party.
It is hard to watch.
Really?
Why is Joe Biden running for re-election? I mean, this is crazy.
Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time.
Tonight about these Maui wildfires. I mean, what a shit response by this government. I mean, what a shit response by this president. It's really, to be honest with you, it's unbelievable that this guy is the president of the United States. He can't get shit right. He says, oh, I want to stay out of the way. I don't want to get in the way of the recovery. You're the president of the United States. You lead the recovery, you knucklehead.
Joe Biden is offering Maui fire victims a $700 one-time payment per household in emergency aid, and asked Congress for an additional $40 billion to Ukraine, all within the same week. Couldn't bother to visit East Palestine, let alone send $1, despite the village still suffering till this day, and has left Americans to eat as he committed 40% of his entire presidency on vacation. Fellow Americans, you must never forget that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
For Fannie Willis down there in Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, Fannie,
this is actually what you bring a RICO charge for, because you have multiple people engaged to facilitate the selling of influence at the top of our politics. That is corruption. Let me help Fannie Willis out with that one as well.
Slap in the face that we as citizens of the United States of America do not have the resources and support, but you're going to bring people who are not citizens here in our community, in our buildings that we pay taxes for, that you took away from us. Yes. That is completely unacceptable.
About the pay to play for the Bidens, we didn't know all of what transpired, but what do we know now? Now, having followed and pulled on the strings, we now know that the Biden family created 20 shell companies when Joe Biden became vice president. We know that the Biden family got 16 of the 17 payments from Romania while he was still vice president. The president told us he had nothing to do with the Biden family's workings, but now we found out through the partner just last week that no, he literally called in. He had dinners, and after the dinners, the Biden family got a new Porsche. They got $3.5 million wired to them. So things seem to be happening here. We also found out where President Biden told us that his family got no money from China. We now know that, yes, they did get money from China. We now know that the FBI, from one of their most prominent informants, was warned that they were told a number of years ago that they had to bribe Joe Biden. So this just raises a lot of questions. We now know that Attorney General Garland has said one thing in the investigation of Biden, but the IRS whistleblowers say something else happened. So what we're trying to find is who lied and what are all the truths?
Under President Trump, $15 billion was allocated to build about 740 miles of wall and barriers down here along the southern border. And as you also know, when President Biden took office, he almost immediately pulled the plug on that project. And about 290 miles of fence was never finished. So work sites were virtually abandoned, and much of the unused materials have sat since then untouched. Like on this New Mexico cattle ranch we visited west of El Paso this week, where a gap remains in the wall and piles of taxpayer-funded supplies remain some 2.5 years later. There are close to 21,000 unused wall panels stored in multiple locations. The Army Corps of Engineers says that the government spends about $160,000 every single month just to store and secure these unused materials.
Glenn Kessler from the Washington Post had a fact check about Joe Biden from earlier this month, noting that Hunter Biden admitted in court in July that he was in fact paid substantial sums from Chinese companies. Kessler wrote, Hunter Biden reported nearly $2.4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong.
Politely ask the press to leave. Thank you for coming in.
See if the president answers any questions here.
Thank you, appreciate it, Fred. Thanks for working out this way. Thanks, guys. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to make our way out now.
Thanks, everybody. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Politely ask the press to leave. Thank you for coming in.
See if the president answers.
He's the president of the United States. He's a symbol of our strength. Our enemies are watching. Can't be falling off bikes on camera. You do that on your own time. If I was a terrorist, I would have been like, attack! Hit the button, send it. This man can't cross the street. He wasn't mountain biking. He wasn't even mounting a bike. He was going sidewalk to sidewalk. Secret Service was there. They're like, he got that. He didn't. He was like that Usher meme, watch this. And then slowly fell, like he got pushed by the ghost of Richard Nixon or somebody. It was a ghost.
At any rate, I want to thank you for your leadership and this unimaginable tragedy. To my left, at any rate, I want to thank you for your leadership and this unimaginable tragedy. To my left.
About Joe Biden from earlier this month, noting that Hunter Biden admitted in court in July that he was in fact paid substantial sums from Chinese companies. Kessler wrote Hunter Biden reported nearly $2.4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong. I don't know that he was lying about it. He might not have been told by Hunter, but this blind spot is a problem.
It's a problem, one, because Republicans aren't going to let it go, that's for sure. But also, these problems are continuing through the legal system. It's not as though this is something that's been settled in other jurisdictions and Republicans are just harping on it. It is an ongoing thing in our courts. It's not going anywhere.
Put my boy Ben up here just to trigger some liberals. So there's a new document that may lead to Joe Biden's direct involvement in corruption. So he was using a fake name, Robert L. Peters. He was conversing with another state actor from Ukraine, the president. The email went to Bobby Peters, so Robert L. Peters, and only one other person was courtesy copied on that email. Guess who it was? Hunter Biden.
Let me
Do
be
you support
straightforward.
gay marriage?
No, Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage. We do not support that. That is basically a decision to be able to be left to the faiths and people who practice their faith, the determination what you call it. The bottom line, though, is, and I'm glad to hear the governor, I take her at her word, obviously, that she thinks there should be no civil rights distinction, none whatsoever, between a committed gay couple and a committed heterosexual couple. If that's the case, we really don't have a difference.
Is that what you said?
Your question to him was whether he supported gay marriage, and my answer is the same as his, and it is that I do not.
Wonderful. You agree. On that note, let's move to foreign policy.
Okay.
But we're learning now that the corruption is even more dark. Here's what we're learning. And this comes from Tracy Beans. I got to give her credit for reporting on this and finding this out. This is Biden's alias, okay? There's an email tied robert.l.peters at pci.gov, okay? This goes, pci.gov, forwards to pitc.gov. That is Department of Defense mail servers. Why is the Department of Defense shielding Biden? Why are they hosting a government email address for him to use for his correspondence? Why is that? The answer is that guess what? Wow, Joe Biden, corruption with the deep state, the defense contractors in on it, the U.S. government being so corrupt, they gave Joe Biden and they gave this Robert L. Peters, fictitious person, a phony dummy email to use so it would look like official government correspondence? Oh, it's got a .gov email. Oh, it's fine. You know, Hillary Clinton was using the Gmails. No, he's even better. He's an even better criminal than Hillary Clinton, if that's even possible. .gov email, so nobody questions it. People go, oh, this is unfounded. Yeah, how many Robert L. Peters are there? Robert L. Peters.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980. Nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, 6,500 young men and women will be married. And with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder, and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
Joe Biden lies. This is what he does. First and foremost, Larry, you go back to those charts. The thing that's most devastating, the mortgage rate, obviously 7.5, conversely to 2.6, 2.7 under Donald Trump. But the 20% increase in groceries, who's paying that? Poor people pay it. Working families pay it. Blue collar workers pay it. Suburban moms pay it. They're the ones that are struggling under Joe Biden's economy. That's why it's been a disaster. And he runs around talking about all the jobs he created. This is the same president who tried to get people fired if they didn't take the COVID vaccine shot. This is the same party that kept our economy closed far longer than it should have been. Joe Biden, when he came in the office, the only thing he needed to do was just go to vacation and do nothing, because the building blocks that were set in place by President Trump were going to bring America back, and he has destroyed our American economy. He's been a disaster when it comes to economic leadership.
Hey, do you remember a few years ago when Joe said this?
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
Here's what they told us yesterday. If I didn't know better, I'd think he was trying to start a war.
Oh Lord, the butthurt crew came in my comments on my video last night about Biden. Let me go on and tell you a few things. If you feel sorry for that dementia-ridden ass, then you truly do not know what all he's done. He's committed treason. Also, crimes against humanity. His entire family has been involved in crimes against children, young girls, and multiple countries. So no, I'm not sorry if I sit there and I laugh at a video, because if I don't laugh, then I get angry, because he's making our country a laughingstock. He's a disgrace, and he should never ever salute our soldiers or our flag. He should be in a nursing home, or even better, in prison. Kid, love you, bye.
All right, let me see if I'm tracking this correctly. 2 weeks after the deadliest wildfire, when we have about 1,000 people missing with more than 100 confirmed dead, children are still missing. President Biden finally decides to take a break from his vacation at Lake Tahoe and goes down and then compares people losing their children being burned alive to the time that he had a kitchen fire that was put out in 20 minutes. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't think politicians should even show up to these things. It's just a bad look. It's stupid. If you want empathy, get a dog. That's not why we have politicians. However, he is there, and he said what he said. Unbelievable. Oh, and he fell asleep at the dinner when they were talking about how sad it was that everybody was gone. Let me translate this headline for you. So Hunter Biden traveled to at least 13 countries with VP Dad. Quote, I can catch a ride with him. Okay, what that really means is that in every place where Joe Biden was running point for President Barack Obama, he took his son with him to collect bags of cash by setting up illegal deals. You could see this in China, you can see this in Ukraine, you can see this in a bunch of other countries. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden used the Biden name to peddle influence, and Hunter Biden got millions of dollars from Chinese companies like CEFC and the Ukrainian company Burisma. Joe Biden ran top cover for him. Now the question here is, oh, well, Joe didn't actually get the money. Now, hold on. He benefited. It's clear because Hunter Biden said he was paying his dad's bills forever. He said as much to his adult daughter. He said, and I quote, I hope that you can get $30 million for the family and pay the bills for the next 30 years just like I have. That's directly what Hunter Biden said. So these people that are like, oh, well, Joe Biden didn't get any of that money. He didn't know what he was doing. No, he took his son, a public figure that had no business being there, that should have registered as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, to all of these countries to establish business relationships on Air Force Two to collect bags of cash. That's what he did.
After digging through hours and hours of raw footage from Joe Biden's time as VP, Primetime can confirm
Hunter Biden was using Air Force Two as business travel. None of this footage has been altered in any way. Back in February of 2013, Vice President Biden went to Berlin, Germany. There's Jill with him. Oh, wait, who's that? Vice President Joe Biden invited his son Hunter back onto Air Force Two for a trip to Asia. The next day, Air Force Two took Joe and Hunter to China. A $25 million deal materialized between China and the Biden clan. There's Hunter again. This time in the back of a limo in South Korea. Somehow there he is in the vice president's motorcade.
There's not a single solitary thing anyone said that was done wrong. I don't discuss business with my son. Never once, not one single time, suggested to the Justice Department what they should do or not do relative to bringing a charge or not bringing a charge. I'm honest.
An April New York Times article, well, they have this passage buried 14 paragraphs down. Mr. Biden privately told his close circle of advisors that Mr. Trump posed a threat to democracy, and here's the big point, and he should be prosecuted for his role in the events of January 6th. He also told confidants that he wanted Attorney General Merrick B. Garland to stop acting like a ponderous judge and to take decisive action.
So you either believe Joe Biden, of which the New York Times just basically called him a liar, or you understand that this is a political hit job by the current president against the current frontrunner for the opposing party. Friends, you don't have to be a genius to understand this one.
It's really bone chilling to see that they are so crazy and they are so nuts that they are willing to unwind the very institutions of our government to extract some political revenge. And this is a very terrible thing for the country, because what it does is it erodes trust in the very foundations of our government. They're criminalizing speech. They're criminalizing your ability to assemble. And all the while, they turned a blind eye to the real corruption. Crooked Joe Biden and his family set up a scheme to shake down foreign countries. It is pay for play. It is bribery. They're all in on it. And that actually is racketeering.
In 1989, the Tiananmen Square massacre started from a freedom protest led by students and other citizens, advocating for political reform and the right to free speech. The Chinese government declared martial law and on June 3rd, ordered the military to suppress the protest, resulting in several thousands being killed. Today, our government now holds the same views as China.
Second Amendment's not absolute. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. There's no amendment that's absolute.
President, can you say anything about the uptick of COVID cases and the new variant?
Yes, I can. Matter of fact, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine that is necessary, that works. And tentatively, not decided finally yet, tentatively it is recommended that, or would likely be recommended that everybody get it, no matter whether they got it before or not.
Hunters in the basement with a silver spoon. The hookers and drugs, we're gonna be there soon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when. I'll be good and high by then, Dad. Yeah, I'll be good and high by.
How far will the most corrupt president in history go to keep Republicans from winning back the White House? Meet the cast of unscrupulous accomplices he's assembled to get Trump. Alvin Bragg, the radical liberal New York prosecutor who refuses to prosecute violent criminals. Jack Smith, who's made a career persecuting innocent Republican officials. Letitia James, the socialist who ran on the promise, I'll go after Trump. And Biden's newest lackey, Atlanta DA, Fani Willis. So incompetent, on her watch violent crimes had exploded. So tainted, Willis was thrown off one case for trying to prosecute a political opponent. So corrupt, Willis got caught hiding a relationship with a gang member she was prosecuting. So dishonest, Willis was accused of creating a fake subpoena. Welcome to the Fraud Squad.
Your investigation, how much money did you uncover was coming from Ukraine, Romania, and China?
17.3 million approximately.
Okay, so 17.3 million through your investigation. And you and Mr. Shapley, you are the guys that investigate criminal tax evasion on an international scale. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Question for the chairman. Mr. Chairman, through the investigation of the Oversight Committee, about how much money have we seen come from Ukraine, Romania, and China?
Over 10 million.
Okay, so we have two separate investigations. One done by the investigative branch of the IRS that is charged with doing these types of investigations. These are the people you want doing them. And an independent investigation by the Oversight Committee. And we're coming up with the same amount of money, give or take a couple million, going through the same person in Hunter Biden. And his investigation is slow walked. And we're supposed to sit here and think that Joe Biden knows nothing? If this action is allowed to occur and investigations are slow walked with this level of detail, this ain't Donald Trump, y'all. These are facts. I yield back.
Make sure the road's clear. All right. Here it comes. Here it comes after 13 days.
Wow, he's finally here.
Attention to Ukraine.
Wow, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for nothing. Fuck you. Hey, right here. Hey, fuck you, Joe Biden. Fuck you.
Good job, guys. That's something.
What happened to Joe's promise that he was going to go to East Palestine? Whatever happened? Did anybody ever help the people out in that community?
Well, it's shameful and disgraceful, Sean. What happened is that over 100 days ago, Joe Biden promised that he would visit East Palestine, and he has broken that promise, refused to visit, and more importantly, Sean, he has refused to actually employ the services of his government to help the people of East Palestine. I was there just a couple of weeks ago, and let me tell you, people feel abandoned and forgotten because their own government, their own president, who promised to show up, didn't show up, and they really feel it. When you compare what's happening in East Palestine and Maui, you see a guy who promised, he ran for president saying that he would bring decency and empathy back to the Oval Office. Well, Donald Trump showed up in East Palestine and Joe Biden never did, and he hasn't shown up anywhere else either. I wish this guy would just stay in his bunker and leave people alone, but if he's going to pretend to be the head of our government, he ought to get out there and do his job.
Republicans have made this an incredibly political issue. They have turned this into into political stunts that we have seen over and over and over again. The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else.
Fox News alert, the Biden administration has just announced its second investigation into Elon Musk in less than a week. First, it was over Elon not hiring illegal immigrants to build his rockets, even though the Biden administration doesn't hire illegal migrants. And now Musk is being investigated by Biden's Justice Department for how he's spending money at Tesla. Biden's prosecutors are accusing Elon Musk of building a glass house. They say the glass house is being built with company funds, and as the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer, Elon Musk is not allowed to build himself a glass house. Now, knowing Musk's sense of humor, the project's probably a lark. What's that euphemism about throwing stones? We don't know. But we have a hunch these investigations have less to do about glass houses and more to do with Biden exacting revenge on Musk for buying Twitter, the greatest psyop the Democrats have ever owned.
Do you know why Trump's a racist? Let me explain this to you and make it very clear. It's because in 1977, he was against desegregation. He did not want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. He was basically saying, I don't want my kids growing up with black kids, so we shouldn't desegregate. He wanted to keep segregation. Here's what he said. He said, no, it was Biden. Biden said that. Biden, oh, my bad. Hold up.
Joe Biden sold millions of barrels from our oil reserves to China, a source that is meant for national emergencies. He also funded Ukraine with over $113 billion since his presidency, in the face of all struggling Americans. And earlier this month, Hunter Biden admitted in court that he was paid millions from both Chinese and Ukrainian interest.
I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong.
According to CNN, Joe Biden's doing a great job. But then you go to Breitbart, they do a little bit more digging than most. Check out the headline. Biden to send Maui less than 1/10 of 1% of what he wants to send to Ukraine. Does that make sense, America? Hawaii is the 50th state of the United States of America. It is America. Yet, they don't even get 1% of the money to rebuild their war-torn, burned out, it is a war zone, their war-torn Maui. They can't put their lives back into order because he simply doesn't want to fund it. What he wants to do instead is launder more money through Zelensky into Ukraine and keep pissing off the Russians, which is never a good idea. Putin is wise to the game. He's not someone to be trifled with. And in the meantime, America, stop flying Ukrainian flags and start flying Hawaiian and American flags.
We can't change the fact that these 13 service members were killed. So why the f do you have to lie about what happened? Why do you have to lie about what happened, what we experienced, what everyone out there went through, what we saw? How can John Kirby stand and say, as the press representative from the White House, how can he stand there and say that he didn't see any chaos from his perch? And that's quote, I didn't see any chaos from my perch. Who the talks like that from your perch? Who talks like that? Who says that? 13 Americans were killed, and you're going to speak like that and say that everything was done right, that you couldn't see any chaos from your perch. It's just disgusting.
I'm sorry, man.
It's not your fault.
I'm sorry.
But it's someone's.
It seems President Biden may have been using some sneaky aliases, Robert Peters, Robert Ware, and JRB Ware in over 5,400 documents during his time as vice president. These fake names were reportedly used to keep his records under wraps while his administration was going after ex-President Trump. And wait, there's more. Hunter Biden was involved in overseas business deals, and it's claimed that funds flowed through shell companies to the Biden family. Things get even spicier with claims that Biden may have influenced U.S. policy because of these deals. Remember that $1 billion U.S. loan guarantees to Ukraine? Allegedly, it's connected. Now here's the kicker. Trump's facing indictments for holding onto sensitive documents, but Biden apparently had documents in plain sight at the National Archives. Stay tuned as this story unfolds, and as always, like and follow for more updates on stories like this.
This should scare the shit out of you. And it probably won't. You'll just probably watch this and then move on, not thinking of what it really means. But Joe Biden just called for the investigation of a private citizen for doing nothing. No crimes committed, nothing. We just ought to look at him, investigate him, prod and poke into his life to see if he's doing something wrong. You know. This ain't America, folks. The king doesn't get to do that. These are tyrants. And the sooner you wake up and say, let's take care of these motherfuckers, when you're willing to walk out your door, regardless of whether anybody else does it, when that happens, then we'll know we're there.
I think that Elon Musk's cooperation and/or technical relationships with other countries is worthy of being looked at. Whether or not he is doing anything inappropriate, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it's worth being looked at. But that's all I'll say. There's a lot of ways. All right.
You commit to releasing this unclassified document that alleges that the President of the United States, has taken $5 million or more in bribes from a foreign nation.
The document has already been released pursuant to a subpoena to the House Oversight Committee.
Has it been released to this committee?
We'll work with this committee within the parameters that are established to meet
Will you
the
release the
request.
document to the public? It's unclassified. Don't you think the American people have a right to see it?
This is insane to think that this individual could possibly hope to run the country for another 4 years. So he's speaking to a group and he tries to relate to the depth of the loss that they must be feeling.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. And lightning struck at home on a little lake that's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
First of all,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
he didn't.
Not
No, he
even
didn't. This
a little
man,
bit.
I don't know if I think he's one of those people who they tell a lie for so long that then they're like, oh no, that really happened. So there
Right.
was like a fire, but reports from the Times said it was very, very small. It was
like a
easily
toaster
contained
or something.
He said he almost lost his wife, and then he laughs about almost losing his Corvette.
And it makes a big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. There's a lot going on here, and I just haven't been able to break. I was thinking whether I'd go to East Palestine this week, but I then was reminded I've got to go literally around the world. I'm going from Washington to India to Vietnam and so it's going to be a while.
In here, how come you haven't gone to East Palestine yet? That's a good
Well, I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. There's a lot going on here, and I just haven't been able to break.
That's absurd. Haven't been able to break. He has spent 75 days on vacation, over that number since the toxic train derailment. He promised to go 6 months ago. The problem isn't that he hasn't had time to go to East Palestine. The problem is that he doesn't care to go. And that shows you everything you need to know about the warped priorities of this administration.
A 71-year-old man is accused of inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl at the Walmart in West Mifflin Sunday afternoon. According to court, a 71-year-old man is accused of inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl at the Walmart in West Mifflin Sunday afternoon.
Senator Biden, it's nice to have you here. As the youngest member of the Senate, the one, therefore, who may expect the longest career there, I wonder if you'd say to us, since it's clear that you're not corrupt and you got elected, why should people think that the system produces corrupt results when there you are?
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt, but thank you for that, though.
We cut the deficit by $160 billion, B-I-L-L-I-O-N, dollars on the Medicare deal. I want to reiterate that appreciation today. I also convened my entire cabinet as part of a whole of government response. And that response is to increase the number and intensity of the extreme weather events and be where we're going to use all the resources available to the government to do it.
Excuse me, what? Go back and listen to that again. Do you hear what dude just said?
So somebody just tagged me in this post. Thank you for that. Yeah, he's reading that. Like, that's not just dumb. He's actually reading that.
I want to reiterate that appreciation today. I also convened my entire cabinet as part of a whole of government response. And that response is to increase the number and intensity of the extreme weather events and be wary we're going to use all the resources available to the government to do it.
All right, Joe, let's try to do this without screwing it up. It's just simple. Pin it on him so we can go. Don't sniff him. There you go. There you go. Don't stick him with the pin. There. Get it on there. Come on. This isn't that hard. There. All right. Straighten it out. Salute him so we can get out of here. What are you doing? Quit playing with it. Look. Oh, man, I really feel bad for this guy. All right. Salute him so we can get out of here. Yep. All right. Yep. Now just salute him so we can go home. All right. Good. Now we just had to do the prayer and then we'll... Where are you going, Joe? Joe, where the hell are you going? Oh my God. I didn't say leave yet. Is his earpiece even on? Oh man, I feel so bad for this guy. Can somebody bring... You know what? Never mind. Just do the dang prayer. Let's end this.
If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't formed any new drilling. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. We're going to be shutting these plants down all across America. No one's going to build a coal-fired plant again, and we're going to get rid of the ones we have now. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure? And
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
No new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels. Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
Let me take you back to 2016. Back in the day, there was a whistleblower with Morgan Stanley right before the 2016 election. You may remember some guy named Donald Trump ended up getting elected there. The whistleblower alleged that some folks were doing some nefarious things over in Ukraine and abroad in Europe, and one of those folks was Hunter Biden right here. Hunter Biden's business partners were both indicted and charged in that event from the whistleblower's account. Hunter was the only one that got away with it. I wonder why. Is it because he's a famous son of a president and then that guy, Joe Biden, ended up taking power in 2020 and here we are? President Trump got indicted over a phone call for this, over what we know now is true, that the Bidens, through Burisma, were getting bags of cash from China and Ukraine during this time, and they impeached him over it. That's interesting, right? Let's talk about this one. The DOJ back at it again. So David Weiss was the previous prosecutor. David Weiss was terrible. He got called out in open court for basically trying to give Hunter a sweetheart deal where he, in the gun charges, asked for immunity to everything else, like, you know, how Hunter should register as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and how he should be prosecuted for tax crimes for collecting upwards of $30 million and not paying his taxes. Well, the DOJ was like, Merrick Garland, good job on this one. Good catch, buddy. So he appointed a special counsel. He appointed the same guy, David Weiss, to be the special counsel. You know what that does? It means David Weiss doesn't have to testify in front of Congress because he can say it's an ongoing investigation and I can't talk about that right now, therefore avoiding oversight. So now they're going to bring up this stupid indictment and say, oh, look, yeah, we're doing something. Listen, the only thing President Biden wants to do here is make it to this election to play this clock out with these silly little indictments and then pardon his son. If you think that's not true, you haven't been paying attention. This is nonsense. This is a nothing burger. Go on with your lives. Tell me where the money went.
Hello, everybody. Let me explain to the press. I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it, but don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in. Where the hell are we? What are we doing?
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
It's like, what kind of psycho statement is that? Have you seen the videos of all the people coming across the open border? Have you seen the videos of the people camped out in like town hall
El Paso, Chicago police departments?
There's just a billion people everywhere. What are you talking about?
There's like a little gray area where they play on where it's like, oh yeah, it's not illegal if they all claim asylum at the same time.
Illegal immigration is actually down.
It's way down.
10 million asylum seekers, but illegal immigration is basically zero because we tell them before they get to the border what to say, then we have them throw out their passports and their IDs.
There's various non-governmental organizations who are advising them on exactly the best way to get left into the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So the team that was in charge of investigating the Biden family for tax crimes never received the FBI document that alleged Joe Biden was involved in a bribery scheme.
For the IRS investigators on the case, the answer is no.
Is that odd? I mean, everybody knew you were investigating the Bidens for at least tax evasion.
Generally speaking, if there's any types of money coming in and there's a criminal tax investigation ongoing, I don't see how that information could be withheld from the investigators.
But they just wanted to hide it. That's what that was all about. They had no interest in providing those IRS investigators with any of this information. That's your FBI for you. How do you like that?
To renew our sacred vow, never forget, never forget. We never forget. Each of us, each of those precious lives stolen too soon when evil attacked. Ground Zero in New York, and I remember standing there the next day and looking at the building. I felt like I was looking through the gates of hell. It looked so devastating because from where you could stand.
Look at the back of this man's truck at the office. Oh my God.